Hi, and welcome to another video by Jim the Car Guy. Today we have a fairly easy job. The car came in overheating. Open up the radiator cap, and we find out that there's no antifreeze in the car itself. We look underneath the water pump area, and you could see the antifreeze dripping underneath the bottom of it. So it's a pretty clean-cut issue. We know that the water pump is no good and it needs to be replaced. I already spoke to the customer. I ordered the part, and now we're going to get started on it to get the job done and out the door, hopefully in about an hour and a half, 2 hours possibly. I'm going to bring you up there now. I'm going to show you what kind of tools you're going to need and the procedure we're going to follow through to get this job done. Basic hand tools is all you're going to need, whether it's a set of ratchets, a socket, a scraper possibly to clean off the old gasket material or any kind of residue. And that's pretty much it. So come on, I'll show you what we're going to do, and then we're going to get started. Okay, first thing we're going to do is I'm going to tell you what kind of tools we're going to need. You're going to need a ratchet with a fairly long handle so you can get some leverage out of it. You know I like my swivel head ratchet. I use that most of the time. A couple of extensions, whichever one is going to be more convenient for you. I got a feeling we're going to be using this one and this one. A set of metric sockets, shallows, and a set of metric sockets deep, just in case. A scraper to clean off the old gasket material, any kind of material in there that's going to interfere with our installation. And if you don't have a gasket scraper, you can use just a razor blade to clean out any kind of material like that. And of course, you're going to need your trusty lights just to see what's going on in there. I will tell you this, underneath the vehicle over here, we did already drain. We have a bucket down underneath the bottom here that we're going to be draining the antifreeze down into it. I don't know if you can see that down there, but it's down in there. All right, so the first thing we're going to do before we do anything is you're going to break these bolts loose here first. This one, this one, this one, and this one. Those are all 10 millimeters. We're going to break them loose first before we take the drive belt off, because otherwise you're going to try to break these later on. It's going to be a little bit more difficult. Not impossible, but a little more difficult. All right, so now what we're going to do is we're going to come in here with the ratchet, put it in here, and we're going to release the tension on the belt after we break these bolts loose here. And then we'll take the belt off, remove this pulley here, and then we'll gain access to the bolts underneath the bottom down here on the pump itself. Now, before you take this drive belt off, make sure that you have a schematic such as this one right here that shows you where the drive belt actually, or how the routing of the drive belt actually goes. If you don't have this, then just draw a picture, take a picture, draw a picture, whatever you want to do, so you'll remember how the belt goes back on there. All right, so all right, let's get set up and let's get started. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to break those bolts loose on the top right here, on the water pump. Now you'll see the pump itself is turning. You see, you can't break them loose. So what you're going to do is you come in here with a screwdriver, just put a screwdriver in here like this and hold it, and now you can break the bolts loose one at a time. Now obviously you'd be able to break 3 of them loose, but not the 4th one. So we're just going to do all 3. And then once we have that done, we just come over, hold it this way. We'll do the exact same thing on this side here. Alright, so now all 4 of the bolts are loose. And now that the bolts are loose, we're going to take the drive belt off. Now the drive belt itself, you need to take it off, but we made sure we had the routing here. Now we're going to come in here with our socket, our extension, and we're just going to push down like this, and just take your drive belt off, and we'll release it. Okay, and then once you got that belt disconnected, we just take it off of the water pump, and we're just going to pull it up over here like this for now. We're not going to totally take it off. We're just going to get it out of the way, just like that. And now we can take off this pulley right here. We broke all the bolts loose, so it should come out fairly easy now. These bolts, you don't want to lose them because you're definitely going to need to put these back in there on the new pump. and then you pull your pulley off. Sometimes it's a little stuck, so we're just going to get back behind it. We're going to pry it out. That's the original pump. It looks like it's been on there for a long time. Okay. Now the pump itself, we have 4 bolts that actually hold the pump in place. Let me show you. This is our replacement pump right here, and we have these bolts right here we're going to be taking out. All right, so that's what we're going to do right now. Those are probably 13 millimeter, 14 millimeter, like that. Now, as I told you before, I did drain out the antifreeze, but you'll still have a little bit left inside when you take the pump out. Take that bolt totally out now. This pump is really stuck in there, so we're going to have to persuade it with a hammer to get it to move. So let me grab a hammer. And you want to hold it, just tap it. But you can see how stuck they really get in there. Now there will be a little bit of antifreeze coming out, but I do have a bucket down below. Okay, and this is the old pump. Right here is what was caught on the inside there. It wasn't coming out. This piece here was actually in the housing itself. So, all right, let's put this on the side. I hope you can see okay there. What we're going to do now is we're just going to let that drain out a little bit. I'm going to clean up all of this debris inside here. We're going to clean off where the new pump is going to go. And once we clean that up, then we'll come right back and we'll get the new pump back inside there. So, all right, we'll come right back. Okay. All right, so now we did clean up everything underneath here with this scraper to make sure that everything in here was nice and clean. We scraped it up really well. I will tell you this, I did take a piece of emery cloth to the inside where the O-ring is going to fit into here, because this one here was so badly oxidized I couldn't get it out with a regular scraper, so I did take emery cloth to it, but that's pretty much how I took care of that. Right down here so you can see. You can see okay. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to take our pump, and I'm going to put a very, very slight bead of silicone on here. We're not going to put a lot on there. We're just going to put a little bit on there. I'll do it and then I'll show you how much it will be. It's just going to be a little bit. You don't want to use excess or too much, because you're going to wind up with it getting stuck in your thermostat. And now we just spread it around, just like this on the O-ring. Just like that. All right. And then we're going to take our pump. Now, we're not going to screw this in tight. What we're going to do is we're just going to take the pump down in there. Now remember, that bolt was on the lower part. Remember, you had these three bolts up on the top. So we're going to take our pump. We're going to put our pump back in here, just like that. And then we're going to catch the bolts in here. Before we do anything, we'll catch all 3 bolts on top. And once we have them caught, then we'll push our pump into the housing. It's much easier to catch the bolts now than it would be to try to turn the pump once it's pushed in all the way. So we're going to catch all three of them on top, and then we'll put our fourth one in down the bottom. And now once it's in, we just take our pump, push it in, and now everything is lined up and the pump is back into its housing. And we'll screw these in. Now there probably is torque specs for these bolts, but I'm not really sure, so I'm just going to snug them in there because it basically just holds the pump. It doesn't do anything else. Don't over tighten them and break them. You're just snugging them in there. That's it. Then just go over them one more time to make sure they're tight. And that's it. The pump is on. All right, next thing we're going to do now is we're going to take our pulley and put our pulley back on. Again, turn it so that the bolt is facing up. Put the one pulley. Now we're going to tighten these up in a minute, but right now we're just going to get all four of them caught. And the reason I say catch all four of them is if it's off just that little bit, you're going to have a problem where it's not going to screw in properly. Now we're going to look at the schematic. We're going to bring our drive belt back in to where it was. You know that this goes around the lower crankshaft. Comes up around the water pump like that. And then back down over here. Like that. And then we're just going to look to make sure that our belt is on everything the way it's supposed to be. I'm going to push down on the tensioner, and when you're pushing on the tensioner, you pull up on the belt, just like that. And then you look at all of the spots on here. I can already tell you one thing. I'm just going to bring you in there. I'm going to show you. Make sure that when you put the belt back on, that it's on exactly right. You see right here? You see that belt is not on correctly? If you start this up with that belt crooked, you're going to shred the belt. So now what we're going to do, we're going to check each one of the pulleys to make sure that it's on the way it's supposed to be. The AC is on correctly, crankshaft's on correctly. We're just going to pull up on that tensioner, and then we're going to go underneath there, and we'll repair. We'll put that belt back on where it belongs. So what we're going to do is just lift up. Belt is on the way it's supposed to be. And last but not least is we're going to tighten up those bolts on the fan right there. Now you remember that those bolts were 10 millimeter. And remember, when you try to turn it, the entire pulley rotates. So we're just going to snug them in. just going to hold it with a screwdriver, tighten it, each one of them. Right, and the last one is this one right here. And that's it. Okay, so let's just go over exactly what we did. Okay, so what we did is we tightened up all 4 of the bolts that hold the pump in place. We just snugged them in tight. You don't have to go crazy and try over tighten them and snap them. We made sure our pulley was back on, and we tightened up all 4 of the bolts. We made sure our drive belt is on exactly where it belongs, and that's it. We're all set. So the next thing we're going to do now is we're going to open up this cap here. Now this cap we're going to get rid of because this one here is leaking a little bit. So we're going to get rid of this cap and we're going to get a replacement for it. But let's fill up the antifreeze and we'll wrap this job up. So you want to make sure you always use the correct antifreeze for the vehicle. This one does call for the regular standard green antifreeze. So that's what we're going to put in here. Okay. And now we have this filled up. We're going to just screw the cap on temporarily. Okay. We're going to back this up to the door and we're going to let it run for a little bit just to make sure there's no leaks. Okay, so now we're just going to look around, make sure we have no leaks anywhere. As you can see, it's nice and dry. No leaks down the bottom on there. Okay, so now we're just going to let this run. Okay, so that's it. We are going to let the car run for a little bit now, just to make sure that that antifreeze is circulating through the engine. It's imperative that you make sure that that antifreeze is full right up to the top. So you want to leave that cap off and let it run for a little bit until it heats up and you make sure it's circulating. A good way that I can tell if it's circulating is just watch the antifreeze inside the overflow bucket. And if you put your finger in it, you feel it, and it's warm or hot, then you know it's circulating 100%. But if it's cold, then you know it's not heated up sufficiently, and therefore you're going to need to let it run just a little bit longer just to make sure it's heated up. The worst thing you can do is take it out and drive it with insufficient antifreeze in there, because you're going to wind up overheating the engine and causing some kind of a problem. So make sure it circulates properly and you filled it up correctly. Now, I know we took out of here about 1.5 gallons of antifreeze, and I know I put about 1.5 gallons back in there, so I know it's fairly full. But make sure that the antifreeze is warm before you put the cap on and take it out for a test drive. All right, as always, thanks for watching. See you on the next one.